In horror, there's a story we love to tell. The one about the perfect summer that turns into a nightmare. About a group of childhood friends, the outcasts and losers, bound together by a shared secret, and perhaps a shared monster. It's a powerful, enduring archetype in modern horror. It taps into our own memories of childhood, that feeling of endless possibility mixed with a creeping awareness of the darkness at the edges of our world. But let's be honest. When we talk about this story, we're really talking about one book, one titan that casts a shadow over the entire subgenre. And that's Stephen King's It. For decades, it has been an undisputed champion, a sprawling 1100-page epic that defined the kids versus cosmic evil narrative for generations. Pennywise, its central villain, isn't just a character. He's a cultural icon and a universal symbol of childhood fear. The book's shadow is so immense that any author who dares to tread on that same ground faces an immediate and often brutal comparison. It's a creative tightrope walk. Lean too close to the source and you're a copycat. Stray too far away and you risk missing the magic that made the formula work in the first place. In 2022, Ronald Malfi, one of modern horror's most interesting voices, stepped into that ring with Blackmouth, and he chose a completely different strategy. He didn't write a behemoth. He wrote its leaner, more stripped-down cousin. He also posed a terrifying question. What if the monster hunting the children of a forgotten town wasn't a spectacle-loving clown from beyond the stars? What if he were a quiet, unassuming magician who preys not on fear, but on the desperate hope of lonely kids? So to understand if Blackmouth successfully steps out of the massive shadow, we first need to make the case for it. We need to ignore the page count and focus on the craft. And when you do that, you find that Malfi's lean approach isn't a bug, it's a feature. It allows him to build a very specific kind of horror, starting with the ground beneath the character's feet. Stephen King's Derry is a living town with a dark heart. It's a place you explore. Malfi's Sutton's Quay, West Virginia is different. It's a dying town. It feels less like a place to explore and more like a tomb you've been sealed in. The dread comes from a sense of inescapable economic and spiritual decay, drawn from the very real history of the region. And on its outskirts is the place the locals call Blackmouth. It's a collapsed abandoned coal mine, a permanent man-made scar on the landscape. It's both a literal and metaphorical Blackmouth that has swallowed the town's hope. Unlike Derry's supernatural evil, which hides behind a carnival facade, the evil in Sutton's Quay feels baked into the soil. It's the ghost of industry, of lives lost for profit, of a community left behind. Malfi makes you feel this oppressive weight in every chapter. The air is heavy, the woods are menacing, and the people are haunted long before the main villain even shows up. And that brings us to the villain himself. This, for me, is where Malfi's focused approach draws its sharpest contrast with It. Pennywise is a cosmic hurricane of fear. It manifests as whatever terrifies you most, a spectacle of claws, teeth, and gore. The magician is a slow creeping poison. He doesn't feed on what you fear. He feeds on what you want. Acceptance, escape, and a little bit of magic in a mundane life. He is the quiet man who listens to vulnerable children, validates their pain, and makes them feel special, all as a prelude to manipulating them into committing horrific acts. It's psychological grooming as a supernatural horror plot. The horror doesn't come from a monster jumping out of a sewer, but from the slow, dawning realization of his true nature. It's a far more intimate, and quite frankly, a more realistic depiction of how evil often works in our world. And that realism is the final pillar of Malfi's success. By stripping away the epic lore, the turtle gods, and the cosmic rituals, Malfi has more time to focus on the grounded human horrors his characters face every day. Nowhere is this more clear than with our protagonist Jamie Warren. For the first half of this book, the primary antagonist isn't the magician, it's Jamie's alcoholism. As someone who grew up around addiction, Malfi writes Jamie with unflinching, devastating honesty. We see the cycle of relapse to self-loathing and the way he uses alcohol to run from his guilt and trauma. This isn't just a character flaw. It's a realistic psychological prison that feels just as inescapable as any supernatural curse. The other human monsters, like the abuser Wayne Lean Stahl, are just as terrifying as the magician because they're real. They exist. And this is the core strength of Malfi's lean approach. The supernatural horror works so well because it's invading an already broken world. By stripping away the fantasy, he forces us to sit in the uncomfortable, the quiet dread of a broken place and its broken people. The horror isn't just happening to them, it's a reflection of what was already there. So we have a masterclass in atmosphere, a genuinely terrifying villain, and a grounded realistic trauma. It sounds like a perfect horror novel. And it is pretty damn good. But here's where the critique comes in, and for me, it's the core of the debate when we place this book next to a giant like it. For everything that Malfi's lean discipline approach gives us, it also takes something away. Think about the stories that define this subgenre. Summer of Night, It, Stranger Things, hell, even The Lost Boys. What's the magic ingredient? It's not just the monster fighting. It's the in-between moments. It's the hangout. It's the scenes that are narratively inefficient but emotionally essential. The endless arguments about nothing. The shared inside jokes. The lazy summer afternoons where the only goal is to kill time together. These moments build a deep, authentic sense of camaraderie. They forge a bond with the reader that is as strong as the bond between the characters themselves. That time we spend with them, marinating in their friendship, is an emotional investment. It's what makes the stakes feel so impossibly high later on. It's why the reunion of the Adults Loser Club hits with the force of a tidal wave. We didn't just see their friendship, we lived in it for hundreds of pages. Now let's turn that lens back to Blackmouth. The flashback chapters to the summer of 1998 are fantastic. They're tense, they're dread-soaked, and they're incredibly effective at showing exactly how the magician sinks his hooks into these vulnerable kids. But they're almost all-purpose. The narrative is so focused on the central trauma that there's very little room for the lighter moments. We see the events that weld them together in fear, but we see precious little of the lazy, joyful, and aimless friendship that must have existed around that trauma. We're told they are fiercely loyal friends, but we're not given as much time to experience the simple, everyday proof of it. And as I was reading this book, I felt the absence. I loved the characters, but I found myself wanting more. I wanted that one extra chapter of Jamie and Clay just talking trash about movies, or a scene of the four of them trying to scrape enough money for slushies at the local convenience store. I wanted more of the texture of their friendship, outside of the shadow of their manipulator. And this has a direct, if subtle, impact on the present-day storyline. When the adult friends reunite to face their demon, we believe in their bond. Malfi is too good a writer for us not to, but we have to take some of that history on faith. The emotional payoff, while still effective, feels quieter and more contained. It's the difference between seeing a highlight reel of a legendary friendship and having a season ticket to every single game. The impact is there, but I can't help but feel it's just slightly muted by the narrative's relentless forward-moving focus. So that's the trade-off. Malfi sacrifices that sprawling coming-of-age emotional depth for a claustrophobic focus and a faster pace. But is that trade-off worth it? So where does that leave us? We have a novel that, on one hand, is a masterclass in atmosphere and psychological dread. A story that feels intensely modern, tapping into our anxieties about predators and the quiet decay of forgotten places. And on the other hand, we have a narrative so lean and focused that it risks sacrificing the sprawling emotional investment that makes its predecessors timeless classics. It's the central trade-off of the book. Relentless claustrophobic tension versus deep nostalgic camaraderie. Which brings us back to the question I proposed at the start of this video. Does Ronald Malfi's Black Mouth step out from the colossal shadow of Stephen King's It? My answer is an emphatic yes. But, and this is the crucial part, it doesn't do it by trying to win the same fight. It doesn't try to outmuscle the behemoth. It steps out of the shadow by refusing to play the same game. If it is the sledgehammer, Black Mouth is the scalpel. It doesn't need the weight in the epic scale, because its goal is different. It's not trying to create a world you get lost in. It's trying to create a feeling of dread you can't escape from. It's not It Light. It's a darker, more cynical, and more brutally efficient response to it. Ultimately, your preference might come down to what you seek in a horror story. If you want an epic journey with characters you'll feel like you've known your entire life, a book you can live inside for a month, then King is, and will likely always will be, the undisputed champion. But if you want a novel that will get under your skin with its oppressive atmosphere, a story that favors grounded psychological terror over supernatural lore, and a plot that moves with the relentless pace of a coming storm, then Ronald Malfi has written a book that you absolutely need to read. Black Mouth solidifies Malfi's place as one of the most vital and sophisticated voices in horror today. It's a haunting, powerful novel that proves this subgenre is far from exhausted. But the debate is what makes being a fan so rewarding. So now I have to turn the final question over to you. For those of you who have read both books, I want to know, what did you miss most from it when you were reading Black Mouth? And conversely, what did Malfi's focused approach do for you that King didn't? For those who haven't read it yet, has this convinced you that there's room for more than one master in the Kings vs. Evil arena? Leave your thoughts in the comments below to help my dark influence grow. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, family, and even your enemies. Just, please, no creepy magicians. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because every subscriber inches me one step closer to taking over the Galaxies. Until next time, take care, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one.